name is Taureka Jiti. I'm from the Epilepsy Support Foundation, the Research and Advocacy Officer. I'm also the Honorary Secretary at the Federation of Organizations of Persons with Disabilities in Zimbabwe.
All right, so Mr. Kajiti, as we celebrate the World Day for Assistive Technology, whenever we talk of assistive technologies or AT, we always think of the physical things that we can see, be it your prosthetics, be it things like wheelchairs and all that. Does it just end with physical, or there are more technologies apart from the ones that people are used to?
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, I totally do agree, and yes, the assumption is that most of the assistive technologies are more physical in nature, your wheelchair, your crutches and so forth. But we do have impairments such as neurological disorders, chronic conditions, such as epilepsy and other, schizophrenia and so forth, that require a different type of assistive device. I think one of the misconceptions that is there is that an assistive device or an assistive technology should be physical in nature, but that does not apply with other conditions, especially those that have heart problems, where pacemakers are embedded within implanted within their body, so that there's that normal function of heartbeat. Including epilepsy, we do have stimulations that are sometimes embedded within the scalp of the head, so that there's that consistent and continuity in terms of brain transmission and brain waves.
Very interesting to know that this stretches beyond what we can see. Now, coming to your role as Honorary Secretary of FORTPEACE. FORTPEACE is an umbrella organization that represents quite a number of organizations that deal with persons with disability. Let's talk about your role in terms of access to assistive technology. What role do you play as an organization?
So the Federation is an umbrella organization that consists of various types of organizations that deal with different types of impairments. I think the uniqueness is more of us coordinating some of these organizations and making assistive technologies available to members or through advocacy. You do appreciate that some of these technologies or artificial intelligence have now been regulated, and most of our OPDs are not very familiar with some of these policies. And hence there's need for us then to educate and empower our members or OPDs in terms of assistive technologies. Not all technology is good to an extent, right, but it's always important for OPDs to be aware of some of these technologies, the good and the bad of it. But however, because we are people that are born with an impairment and the environment may disable us, however, we try to leverage on technologies to try and normalize function as much as possible, so that I am able to independently live as an individual with an impairment.
All right, I guess you've also touched on the role of the organizations then in ensuring that there is access. But one thing that I also like is that you are well traveled, you've been to different countries, and you appreciate what's happening on a global scale in terms of access to assistive technology. How would you say we as a country are doing in terms of ensuring that persons with disability also have access to assistive technology?
Well, yeah, that's quite interesting. The funny part of it, the current legislation is very productive and is enabling for such assistive technologies. However, I believe that we still have a long way in having assistive or artificial intelligence fully implemented. One, comparing to other countries, I think it will be the cost, because this requires a holistic approach. You talk of local authority, the councils. You go into other countries, you have road signs or robots that speak, that coordinate, or that give you information when to cross, when to stop, and other. Yes, we do have a bit here in Zimbabwe where elevators will Either they have, you know, the tactile,
Right.
the braille, or at least they speak. But not so often do we have such things. And I believe that assistive technologies also, you know, goes beyond, you know, machines, but it also requires individuals per se to be supportive, or to, you know, manually use those. Look at countries like Japan, where, you know, there's a lot of people with disabilities independently, you know, stay on their own regardless of the impairment. Possibly they try to they quantify the type of impairment, and they will then establish the type of support and assistive technologies that you require as an individual. So I believe that Zimbabwe is a ripe, you know, environment that is eager and ready to embrace assistive technologies. But again, the issue of policies, it now needs to be incorporated with the various laws that we have, not only with the Disabled Persons Bill, but also in all bills that we currently have, including, you know, the Disaster Risk Management Act, so that, you know, AI is also incorporated into law.
Right, so there's need to move with time, so that we're also able to fully embrace AI. You also spoke about something very important, the issues around costs. It's something that you started delving into. Considering that and other factors, do you feel that persons with disability are aware of the options that they have in terms of assistive technology?
Definitely, you will be surprised. Many persons with disabilities really know some of these assistive technologies, but the costs are quite, you know, quite high, and you know, majority of persons with disabilities they live below the poverty data line. Hence, just the affordability of some of those devices. You talk of readers used by persons with visual impairment. You talk of the artificial limbs for those with physical impairment. And also you talk of those with invisible disabilities that require, you know, assistive technologies that are not really physical, but, you know, in a tablet form, such as this. So for a person with epilepsy, I cannot live with this. Just the same way as a person with a physical impairment who requires a wheelchair. So in essence, this is my wheelchair for me to live a normal daily life.
You can explain that. What is it?
Yes. So these are epilepsy medicines.
Okay.
These, they normalize the function of the brain, coordinating the electrical movement within the brain. So without this, the whole day one will have seizures, non-stop or continuous, unable to, you know, become productive and, you know, fend for your family or fend for yourself, or be productive within the community. So this is a must-have for a person with epilepsy. Not only epilepsy, but with other chronic conditions, schizophrenia, bipolar, and so forth. So for them to function, they require such assistive technologies.
Right. So assistive technology comes in all shapes and forms.
Yes.
Right. It's not just the physical that we used to, but it stretches even beyond that. Now let's talk about here in Zimbabwe. Are there any disparities in terms of access between those that are in the rural and those that are in urban areas?
Yes, I believe there is a very, very, you know, big disparity, because, you know, once you are within an urban setting, to an extent, access to well-wishers,